Well, there's one thing. You can say what you want about the Liberals, but they sure know how to dominate the news cycle. James Mennie is joining us right now, reporter, columnist, and editor at the Montreal Gazette. James, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I've only been doing this for 16 years, so I've learned to carve out a few minutes every day to do this show.
And we appreciate it.
I talk. What you just said is a personification of damning with faint praise, because yes, the Liberals do have a talent for attracting, being the center of the news cycle, unfortunately for all the wrong reasons. And now the latest, and now to a certain extent, everyone's going to be kind of like, as opposed to putting a lid on this ongoing controversy for the Quebec Liberal Party. I don't know. I think by announcing this external independent investigation, I'm just waiting for the first headlines or the news scoops to start coming out. The idea, of course, is that a retired Superior Court justice will examine the allegations of vote buying in the leadership campaign for the Quebec Liberal Party. They'll examine the situation concerning, what exactly is happening in the Liberal Party. But I mean, this idea that we have lawyers and lawyers' letters and lawyers and cease and desist going back and forth, between Montreal Rizki, who was the voice and the face of the Quebec Liberal Party, and newly elected leader Pablo Rodriguez, over the firing of her chief of staff, something he said he should have been consulted on, and she's not saying a thing, which is quite frankly ominous. And indeed, whenever she's spoken to him about this issue, she's always gone in the company of a lawyer. So you figure that it's clear there's more of this story than meets the eye. But I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I hope. Listen, holidays are coming up. I think the Liberals could use some kind of a break, but I'm not entirely sure that's going to happen. Even today, there's now reported on more federal Liberals who supported Pablo Rodriguez for the leadership of the Quebec Liberal Party. And there's absolutely nothing untoward with that. Everyone's perfectly entitled to do that. However, there's this whole sort of suggestion that maybe Mr. Rodriguez was the bridgehead for a kind of federal takeover of the Quebec Liberal Party, which has always prided itself on being completely distinct and independent from its federal counterpart.
And
but
James, when you think about it, things happen so quickly. This was like this was going to be the great big shining star, right, to turn things around for the nearly dead Quebec Liberals. And now it's headline after headline. These are Pablo's problems. I mean, question. I was reading your notes. You said, can they hang on until the end of the year? This is a lot.
Well, no, because the fact is they don't have that much presence in the National Assembly. They don't have a big caucus, and the thing is they're still beset. I mean, the recent surveys show that essentially Mr. Rodriguez's presence as leader has not really changed the party's fortunes. They've gone up overall in the polls, but the fact is their minuscule support among Francophone voters means they'll be lucky. They'll, quite frankly, be lucky to wind up the official opposition in the next in the next election.
Okay.
But on top of everything else, Joanne, you know how it works. It's like you and I are talking about this, but we're not the only ones. And in fact, when people hear about the Quebec Liberal Party, they're hearing about its problem. And you'll recall a time not that long ago when, yes, it was when it was perfectly normal to hear the words Quebec Liberal Party and UPAC, the province's anti-corruption unit, in the same sentence, certainly in the same news report. And it took them a while, years literally, to sort of break that link. But now we seem to be, and once again, UPAC is looking into allegations of the whole
They're
situation.
Investigating. We're clear that they are investigating.
They haven't launched an investigation per se. They're just looking into the situation to see if there has been any kind of untoward conduct. We've seen reports that they've already interviewed Montreal Rizki, which suggests that, there probably is going to be another shoe to drop. But when's it going to happen? And how much attention will people pay to it? Or will people, and it's not such a matter that people are going to say, oh, my goodness, this is terrible for the court. It's people zone out, Joanne. Yeah. People are just going to go, you know what, I don't have the time. This is so complicated, but you know what? I don't have the time to waste with these guys. I want to hear from somebody who's going to explain to me why I'm not going to have a stroke the next time I look at my bills from Costco. Yeah. And if they can help me out with that, that's fine. But for the rest of this, I don't care. And if that starts showing up in the polls, poor Francois Legault. He's tanking in the polls because people genuinely don't like him. But the risk that Pablo Rodriguez is running is that it's not that people won't like him, it's that people will be indifferent. People won't care about what he does or what he says or what his party stands for. They will just be this kind of, oh my God, are they out of the game? And that's the precipice that they're hanging on right now, Joanne. And I'm not entirely sure those fingernails they have are going to last between now and January 31st, which is when the report is supposed to be tabled.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And you said something so interesting there, James. You said it's about the meat and potatoes right now. People care about the money that they have in their bank accounts, how much they owe in debt, if they can afford a house, and all this minutia just distracts from what people are really talking about.
And to a certain extent, that's, well, I won't say our fault, but I'll say certainly it's my business's fault in terms of, this is sexy for us. Scandal is sexy. Politics is sexy. The cut and thrust, the horse race, the adversarial kind of narrative that we cover on a daily basis. But you have summed up the reality for most, if not all of our listeners, and everyone's looking at the world has changed so profoundly in the past 5 years in terms of the economy, in terms of how we live, in terms of how we interact with each other. And the idea that we're going to have these quaint, dare I say, 20th century kind of political feuds coming up, people don't care.
They don't have the bandwidth. They don't have the bandwidth.
No, they don't have the bandwidth. We hired you to look after us. I don't care what problems you're having with your colleagues.
Yeah.
We hired you to look after us. Do so. And we're seeing what happened with the CAC when they betrayed that trust, as far as I'm concerned. And who knows? Will the Liberals follow? We'll find out after January 31st, I guess.
Yeah, we have to talk about Ottawa. We have to talk about the cabinet. Hey. I mean, I used the word whiplash before, but there is a lot going on over there. I need your thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, here's the thing is like, Stephen Guilbeault, I don't know if you saw him last night on Tout le monde en parle, but he made it clear that he couldn't remain a cabinet minister in a government that essentially had honestly, even if it's an agreement to have an agreement about a pipeline, he stopped hearing things once the word pipeline was mentioned. Mm-hmm. He is a lifetime ecologist, a lifetime environmental militant. He's been with Greenpeace. He's co-founder of Equiterre. And he could not and basically stay in cabinet.
He couldn't stomach it, I don't think. I think.
You know what? What got me last night was that he said, well, yeah, but if there's an election tomorrow, I vote for Mark Carney. Although, once again, talking about damning with faint praise, he says, well, if you look at, the alternative, when you look at what's happening with Pierre Poilievre, all the stuff that we're getting right now into this government would simply be off the table. So, I mean, there's that. And it was, and I refer to it as the detruification of the federal Liberal Party by Mark Carney. But that said, it's interesting because Guilbeault's out of cabinet, but remains a Liberal MP. Mark Miller, as stalwart a Trudeau loyalist as I think I've ever covered, former Minister of Immigration, former Minister of Indigenous and Crown Affairs, really, really good at what he does, an excellent cabinet minister, and more importantly, in this day and age, and if you follow him on social media or even see him in his scrums and his clips, this guy does not take any garbage, especially from the Conservatives. He is, I'm not saying he's an attack dog, a la Pierre Poilievre was in the Harper days, but he does not, if somebody makes a claim that he can blow up, he will stomp on it 6 ways to Sunday. And it's interesting, I wonder if the messaging in this is, from Carney is, I'm changing things, but this is not a purge of Trudeau from the party, because as I say, this guy's a super loyalist. Joel Lightbound, who is infrastructure minister, becomes a Quebec lieutenant. Now, you may recall Joel Lightbound was one of the names that was being bandied about when the provincial Liberal leadership was open. Yep. And he was being wooed apparently, and it was finally after months of no comments. No, I'm not going to do it. Blah 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 blah. And to a certain extent, at this point, I think he's not regretting that decision. When you look at where the party is, and once again, he's still in the thick of it. He's still in the he's a Quebec City MP, but he's still in the thick of it, and it's a state of flux. And this is a guy you may recall during the occupation of Ottawa by the truckers. He broke ranks with the Liberals. He basically said, you know what, no, these truckers should go home. But on the other hand, we've got to change the way we're doing things in terms of these mandates. And he was not a potted plant. He was not a trained seal, and he put himself on the map for that. And I don't know. It seems that Mark Carney may be sending a message that if you hold up your end.
Yeah.
If you are who you are, as Stephen Guilbeault was, there's room for you in my cabinet. And I don't think, Stephen Guilbeault was clear. He says, it was the drop, it was the last straw. I don't think he was pushed out of cabinet. He simply could not. I think that's clear. He simply could not stay. And by reiterating his support for Mark Carney, I think we all know, we're not going to be hearing any, as far as I can tell, we're not going to be hearing any scandals leaked out of Ottawa anytime soon. But it's clear as well that with these choices, as far as I'm concerned, Mark Carney knows things are going to get a little more rough and tumble in Ottawa as we enter a new year, as we enter another. For the time being, difficult economic phase for this country. And I think he needs people who can trust and also not only know how to take a hit, but also how to hit back. And I think that's what we're seeing with these choices today.
James Mennie, I mean, they dominated the news cycle. The Liberals did that once again. James Mennie, reporter, columnist, and editor at the Montreal Gazette. It's always such a pleasure to chat with you. Speak again soon.
Introducing Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
Join me for an insider look on a wild ride through 40 years of global rock and roll.
Bryan Adams Radio. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app. Or ask your smart speaker to play Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio.
Who's ready to rock?
Kids wanna rock.